So recently on the show, I started talking about basics of mixology, foundational stuff about mixology, kind of taking a look back at some earlier episodes of How to Drink and updating that information and approach and techniques for you, for a new audience, for us all, for me who's thirsty. So we're going to make a whiskey sour today on How to Drink. So I want to start off by just making a very, very, very basic whiskey sour. Then I want to make a whiskey sour the way I like it. I'm going to make another variation called a Boston Sour. And then I'm going to, off the cuff, riff off a couple of whiskey sour variations based on the formula for the whiskey sour. We're going to start with an ounce of simple syrup. Yep, you heard me, a whole dippy-doo ounce. You could use a little less than that if you want. You could use more than that if you want, but for my purposes, 1 ounce is the way to go. I think that there is a tendency for people to want to make their whiskey sours and their cocktails less sweet than the drink itself wants to be. I kind of get where that comes from. I also want to push back a little bit on that because this is a bit of a confection. Cocktails are sweets, they are treats, they are after and before dinner snacks, you know. It's okay for it to be unassailably accessible and delicious. There's nothing wrong with that. You need a lemon, and we want 1 ounce of lemon juice, right? So we're 1 to 1, 1 part simple, 1 part lemon juice, 2 parts whiskey. And the whiskey of today is gonna be Wild Turkey 101. Here we go, ice. And shake it up. Need a glass, and whiskey sours can be served up. They can be served on the rocks. You can do a lot of things with it. I'm putting this one on the rocks, and sure, I could just dump it in on the ice it's currently on, but why not put it on a nice fresh one? There you go. Very basic, right? That's it. Absolute fundamentals of the whiskey sour. Cheers. Perfect. Lovely balance of sweet and sour, and it doesn't completely bury or mask the whiskey notes, which I'm getting tobacco. Is that almonds? Maybe. Definitely peanuts. Good God. It is straightforward and to the point. There's not a long evolution. There's a great tension between 3 flavor components, our sweet, our sour, and our strong, and they are held together in balance. And that's really it, right? The whiskey sour is ultimately a very simple thing. And this is the formula. So it's gonna be 2 parts whiskey, 1 part lemon, 1 part sugar. That's your absolute basic. And then I'm gonna put down here X, whiskey. You can actually say that that's spirit because you can do all kinds of drinks that are sours of other natures. Your lemon could just be any citrus or sour ingredient. And this could really be anything sweet. The thing about a drink like that where you've got 2 parts spirit, 1 part sour, 1 part sweet. What if I replace my sour component with orange juice? If I switch the lemon for orange juice. All right, well, 1, we know we've dropped the acidity way, way down, and we're getting a lot of sweetness from the orange juice. So to compensate for that, you're gonna get overlap of these circles, right? You're gonna wanna move some of your other sweetness down, and maybe you wanna bring in some more bitterness, some more tartness, something to elevate that. You could also use acid-adjusted orange juice or something like that where you're directly adding citric and malic acids to it, but that kind of defeats the purposes of what I'm talking about here. It's a little bit of a dance. You only got 3 ingredients. I put an X down here because there's also room in something like a whiskey sour for just pure embellishment, just an extra thing. I'm gonna make a whiskey sour now the way I really like to make a whiskey sour. I wanna make a Boston Sour. This is, to my way of thinking, just the creme de la creme, peak of the sours. Same as before, I want 1 ounce of simple syrup. I want 1 ounce of lemon juice. That's actually even slightly more than an ounce. 2 ounces of spirit. We're just gonna stick with the bourbon, Wild Turkey. This drink is further embellished with an egg white. Some people are put off by that. There's quite a bit of science as to why this is reasonably safe. Nothing you do in life, oh shit, oh boy. Nothing is without any risk, but there we go. Let's get some ice on this thing and shake it. I should have dry shook this first. Just a technique thing. With an egg white in a drink, you usually dry shake it. I don't normally do this, but I do when I screw up and forget. I'm gonna reverse dry shake. To do that, I need a second shaker. This is one of the many reasons I don't usually reverse dry shake. I'm just doing it because I messed up. I was distracted by something that's not in the show. So now I'm just gonna strain this drink into my second shaker, shake this iceless drink dry to froth up my egg white. Totally not necessary, by the way. I think that we already had a sufficiently frothed egg white, but it's good practice to think about that stuff a little bit, because while the ice I use here is really heavy and dense and very good at aerating and frothing an egg white, the ice you use at home probably isn't. You probably just have like regular freezer ice, and it's just not going to be quite as effective. I'm actually gonna strain this even though there's nothing to strain out of there that really shouldn't be, because I want to thin down that foam. It was very, very big, chunky bubbles when I looked down in there, and then running that through that spring pares that down into something a little bit more like what I wanted. You can see we have a really clear line here, a very beautiful head on the drink. This is the final embellishment on this. We're going to add some bitters. We're going to add a couple dashes of bitters right onto the surface of this drink as kind of a garnish, and then swirl them. We'll try that. There we go, that's art. It is so much better. It is such an improvement over a regular whiskey sour. The texture of it gives it this silkier mouthfeel while also holds air, and it has it's very pleasing the way it feels in your mouth. And those bubbles are carrying with it the cinnamon, the allspice, the mace, the vanilla notes even of Angostura Bitters. And it's just, you're chewing on it in such a pleasing way. And then it still has that perfect balance of lemon and sweet and the bourbon notes. And this is a great bourbon for whiskey sours, I'm quickly finding out. A lot of tobacco notes, a lot of the nuttiness, and it really works well in this drink. It's a good mixing bourbon. I mentioned before that the really basic whiskey sour has like very little evolution. It's really well balanced, but it's got no base, which here we have from the Angostura. That really puts in some bottom notes of the flavor spectrum. And it also adds all this evolution to it, and it lasts, and it takes a couple of turns in your mouth. A little embellishment like this goes so far in this drink. It's probably a really good time for me to mention that this glass and the glass for the whiskey sour that I had to pour out, and this glass and all of those glasses back there that are about to be on the show are all provided by Whiskey Glassware, the official glassware provider of How to Drink. If you need nice looking glasses for your home bar, and if you're watching the show, I bet you do, you can use the link in the pin comment below or up here in the corner. Use code HowToDrink15 at checkout. You're gonna get 15% off of your entire order from Whiskey Glassware. And thank you to Whiskey Glassware for sponsoring the show and providing me with these beautiful glasses. I'm gonna do one more embellished version of the whiskey sour. It's called a New York Sour. Interesting enough, we're all named after cities. And then we're gonna make up a couple of our own. And we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna have a flip, flop, flippity-doo fun time. I'm gonna need a lemon. Cut that lemon up. Zip. 1 ounce of lemon juice. I'm gonna need 1 ounce of simple syrup. We're gonna need 2 ounces of the bourbon of the day, which is Wild Turkey 101. I don't know why I've decided today that there's a bourbon of the day. That might be a thing to do on the show. Ice in cubes. We're gonna shake this drink. I'm gonna strain this drink, and honestly, if I had my double strainer handy, I just didn't bring it today, I would just double strain this for speed's sake, because it lets me kind of work a little bit quicker, believe it or not. And now, for that crazy embellishment, wine. We're gonna do a float of red wine on the top of this drink. Here we are, this is the New York Sour. I love that. You would never think that that's gonna work, but it works so well. You're sipping through the wine into the whiskey sour. And because of that, what's in your mouth is a lot of that is wine. And yet, this drink doesn't really taste like wine. What it tastes like is a whiskey sour that's been moderated with the addition of some tannins, with the addition of some buttery notes. It takes the sourness of the whole thing and rounds the corners off a little bit. It moderates the sweetness. It takes the flavor profile of a whiskey sour and it lengthens it. And then something really wonderful happens on the tail end of this. There's like a conversation happening between wine and bourbon that's only possible because there's this lemon and sweet sort of medium for them. You know, normally I prefer the Boston, but at the moment I'm really enjoying the New York Sour. Let's go off the rails. Let's start playing with the formula and see what we can come up with. What if we wanted a spicy whiskey sour? This is Ancho Reyes spicy liqueur. I've used this on the show a few times. I mean, I've used this on the show constantly. Just a spoonful of sugar here. Peppery, spicy, not entirely unsweet. It's got some sweetness in it. So that's gonna be our sweet component. It doesn't provide sour at all. For sour on this one, I wanna do a blend, I think, I'm just making this up, of lemon and orange. No, not orange, let's use Curacao. We're gonna throw a dash of Curacao into this. Lemon, because we still want that tartness. And I brought some Mezcal, so why don't we try it with Mezcal? So, first things first, we need some lemon juice. Slice that. So 1 ounce of lemon juice. That's our 1 part sour. Let's do 3/4 of an ounce of Ancho Reyes and a 1/4 ounce of Curacao. Now, whenever I'm building a drink on the fly and I'm not really sure I've got it, I'll take my spoon and just dip it in there. I'm gonna up it a little bit. We're gonna do an extra 1/4 ounce of the Curacao. Let's see where that puts us. Better balance on that front. I think I still want 1/4 to 1/2 an ounce of simple. Now, I know that by volume of liquid, of course, we're way over a 1 part, but I'm saying that by volume of sweetness, which is what the function of that part of the drink is, we haven't gotten there yet. We're almost there. We do want that last 1/4 ounce. So it's a 1/2 an ounce of simple to make this drink work. And then that brings us actually into balance. Absolutely. Ooh! So it's time for our 2 parts of strong, in which case I'm going to use this Derrumbes Mezcal. I haven't had this Mezcal since I did my Mezcal breakdown episode where I tried to drink Mezcal from every region of Mexico. I do recall quite liking it. And let's see how this is so far. I don't know that we've got it yet, but let's try it. I think that's a lot of fun. This is a acrid and lightly smoky kind of mezcal. It tastes a little bit like cactus, like that vegetal kind of thing. There's notes of orange, and there are notes of smoky chipotle spiciness. But I wanted this drink to be spicy. We're just gonna add a little 1/4 ounce of Ancho Reyes. I think we lost a little bit of that heat. Yeah, that did it. Now I've got some spiciness running down my throat. It's a little hot. Could the drink be hotter? Yes. You could add a couple dashes of Tabasco or whatever, your hot sauce of choice. Just 1 to 3 dashes tops, put it in the shaker, and you will have a hot drink. You want to add an ingredient that is just in there without drowning everybody else out. It would be pretty easy to put too much hot sauce into a cocktail and have the drink taste like hot sauce and nothing else. I'm very happy with the way this came out. And I'm gonna tell you something, there's a part of you that might be saying, but Greg, isn't that like a variation on a margarita? The fact that following the rules of a formula leads you in the direction of another well-established drink that you know works is not an indictment of that formula. In fact, it is actually proof that there's a sound scientific foundation in the way that people's mouths work. There are just a couple of shapes that everything is going to try and gravitate towards, and this is one of them. Just for curiosity's sake, how would this be with a flamed orange peel? That's what I want to know right now. I want a little bit more. I want a little bit more going on here. There we go. Just a little bit of smokiness, those extra orange notes, something like that. First off, the smoke is awesome. It is integrating into the flavor profile of the drink. It comes in late on the profile, and I was about to dismiss it because I was like, you know, this kind of threw us back out of whack a little bit. There's a little too many orange notes now. Then it does resolve into the spiciness, augmented by the smoke of the flame. And I don't know if you saw it, but there was like a big puff of black smoke when we did that. It won't always work out that way. In this case, it did. And honestly, I think it's a huge improvement on the drink. That is a fantastic mezcal cocktail. I'm sorry, I don't like to toot my own horn. I do, I love tooting my own horn. Let's make another one. This is St. George's. And by the way, if you want any of the spirits I use on the show, you should check out Curiata at drink.curiata.com. Friend of the show. If you want to support the show, that's one way to do it. Because I get a little tiny piece of the action over there. But this is St. George Rye, Dry Rye Gin. And to prove a point that I have no plan here, actually really happy this worked out this way. This still had the plastic on it. I don't know anything about what this gin tastes like. Should I? I'm about to pour a sample. No, I shouldn't. Let's assume that our formula works. We need something that's sour. Let's go with lime. I don't know, because we've done lemon to death, right? We need something sweet. I did bring Barrow's Intense Ginger Liqueur. It's like another thing that Curiata sent me, I think. I feel like the ginger is gonna take over a drink. It's gonna cheat a little bit and make anything you put into it taste like ginger. This is Chinar. I've never used it on the show. That is earthy and bitter with a note of sweetness. This could be a component of our sweet package. I think I've overthought it. What if it was Chinar and ginger liqueur? What would that be like? So I'm just gonna throw a little combination here together. Splash. Let's just see what that tastes like on top of each other. Normally I can formulate what that's gonna be like, but here, because these are so weird compared to each other, I cannot. No, I like that a lot. That's like earthy pine trees and ginger. This is not terribly unlike Fernet that's had its Fernetiness toned way down. Oh no, I think this is gonna be awesome. That's cool. I don't know if that's the whole sweet component. There might be some simple involved, but let's start there. 1 ounce of lime juice. That gets us to a half. Whoa, baby. 2 ounces of our strong, which in this case is gin. This is St. George Dry Rye Gin. I know nothing about this gin, nothing. For our sweet, let's do a 50-50 mix, right? Sometimes I like to do this. Okay, so a little less than a half an ounce, a little more than a quarter. What would that be? 6 sixteenths of an ounce ginger, Barrow's ginger, and the remainder, China! Pour that in there. Let's see if we've gone awry with our rye gin. That's dry. That's really dry. Okay, so we need some simple. Let's start with a half an ounce. Another quarter ounce. It looks like our ginger and China are not really contributing to the sweetness nearly as much as I thought they were going to. They're contributing to kind of our X factor here, the embellishments. That brings this drink into alignment. Yeah, now it's on balance. I'm gonna throw a cube in my glass, pour my drink, and Bob's your uncle. This is our Rye Gin Sour. I still think it's undersweetened, but it's pretty great. It has these earthy bitter notes. It's under-gingered. That's the problem too. We need more ginger. I don't know though. The Chinar might have been a mistake. I've done a few of these like formula-based episodes so far, and this might be the first drink that I don't know about. This is at least the third episode where I've tried to make drinks just off the cuff using a formula. This one sucks. We missed it. It happens. But this is too bitter. This is like a carpet factory that's on fire. This is too acrid. This drink is no good. Let's do it again. I don't think the formula is wrong. I think that my interpretation of the ingredients that I was trying to put through the formula was wrong. I misunderstood how they work in that setup. That said, I am determined to make a gin sour work. Let's try that again. Let's start with an ounce of lemon juice. This is Chinola. I love this. This is a passionfruit liqueur. Oh, that's lovely. Let's do an ounce of that, which is a big pour for something like chinola. But remember, that's our sweet component in the drink. That's really like the simple syrup. It just happens to be a passion fruit liqueur. And we'll do 2 ounces of this St. George dry rye gin, dry rye. Let's see where we're at here. Boy, that gin is tough to balance, isn't it? So what we might be learning here is that this sour formula really works well with brown spirits. It may not work well with gin in particular. I'm gonna do half an ounce of a Demerara simple syrup. This is gonna add some more sweetness, which we haven't really attained yet. We don't have quite enough sweetness, but also some brown sugar kinds of notes. I think that it might be true that when you're working with gin and light spirits like this, that Demerara Simple does a lot to make up the difference. And I think that did. All right, let's see how we did. Geez, I feel like that needs a garnish, don't you? Let's see how this came out. This is our passion fruit gin sour. That's a delight. The gin and sweet are kind of up front, and the lemon, the foundations of your sour, they are kind of working together to present to you this rye gin, which has a very dry, very bitter, earthy kind of vibe with a lot of spiciness, like the rye spice, moderated by the sweetness and the sour, the lemon. It's a presentable package right away. Then you get that orange twist, very, very pleasant to suddenly have this orange palate cleanser kind of hit you. And then that resolves very slowly. It takes a while to get into passion fruit, which is a great place to finish. It's wonderful. It's a nice, bright, fruity, tropical drink that has a fair amount of evolution and a fair amount of character and depth. There's a lot more going on here than just being bright, fruity, and sweet. Again, this speaks to this idea that when you understand these foundational drinks and the formulas and the mechanics of how they work to make a drink work for the universal parts of how your brain stem and your taste buds connect, you can work with that. I've got one more in me, but also, I'm not okay.
8 fucking whiskey, so I couldn't stop at fucking 3 or 4, 8! Wow!
I'm not in a great place to do another drink. And I'm definitely in a bad place to do another episode.
That's it. That's fucking it!
Here I'm starting from my sweet. I'm not starting from my base spirit. I have this syrup, this delicious, I mean, it is so good. It's just tart cherry juice and sugar, but man, I am super into it. I know for certain this is gonna pair up great with lime juice. So we're looking at lime and cherry. And I think, honestly, let's go back to the bourbon. Let's go back to the Wild Turkey 101. Hey, that bottle's getting empty. That's a bad sign for all of my brains. And so we've got our 3 parts there. Let's build that and see if we need to embellish it or if it's like perfect right out of the gate. All right, so we need 1 ounce of lime juice. I'm gonna match that with 1 ounce of my cherry syrup, 2 ounces of our bourbon, and let me see how that tastes. No, I think that's gonna be very nice. 1 ice cube and crack. Beautiful color on that, right? All right, let's see how this cherry lime bourbon sour came out. That's fun. Ooh, that's fun. So it starts out pretty dry. The dominant flavors at the front are the lime and the bourbon. And it actually doesn't present as very sweet at all up front. In fact, I think you could up the sweetness, but that resolves quickly into a very mellow, sweet and sour, recognizable kind of place where the lime and the sweet and the bourbon are in balance. And I gotta tell you, that cherry finish, that is my favorite part about this. That is super neat because it lingers this tart cherry kind of sweet, but not overly sweet finish. You get bourbon-y, peanut and caramel and bite and char kind of notes moderated by lime that resolves into sweet caramel and cherry. Oh, super fun. You know what might be great here though to accentuate this? Chocolate bitters. Because you start putting cherry and chocolate together. I'm just gonna add a couple dashes there of our Angostura's cocoa bitters. Just stir them in real quick. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Woo! Now this drink is alive. It doesn't open with a lime bourbon kind of bitter booziness. It kind of calls back ice cream, like chocolate cherry vanilla ice cream, but very unsweet. Like the lime comes in and says, but I'm not ice cream. And then that brings in the peanuts and the caramel and the char and the tannins, the oak, the bourbon. And then that resolves into this, ultimately it winds up on tart cherry with like chocolatey ghosts. And other than the Boston Sour, this is my favorite drink of this episode. All right, well that is the whiskey sour. That's how you can make all of your essential whiskey sours and how you can play with the formula for the whiskey sour to come up with your own twist, your own variation, your own signature cocktail, if you will. That is, in some ways, the science of the whiskey sour, right? The engineering of it. If you play by these rules, these other drinks should work well. I will see you soon in another episode of How to Drink, and if you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. And I want to remind you that I've been making this show for 10,000 million years. Here are many episodes, 4 more things from How to Drink that you've never seen probably, and that you might want to check out while you wait for the next episode of the show to come out. Cheers. Oh my God, that's a thing of beauty. It's glorious. Glorious!
Fucking whiskey sours.